Namaste and good morning to everyone joining us live from various parts of India and the world. I am Akshay Bajaj, and on behalf of CIVOM, I welcome you all to an all new session dedicated to the occasion of World Mental Health Day. Now, I must admit that this session becomes all the more important because we will be focusing on the theme of promoting mental health and well being in educational settings. And who could be better than the most celebrated individuals who have devoted themselves to serving the learning and education ecosystem of India? That brings me to the three guest panelists we have among us today. Let me reveal these well known icons. On first, we have Mr. Yogendra Patidar, Director, CIVOM. Yogi Patidar is a young award winning entrepreneur, Business World 40 Under 40 Education Award, who is passionate about changing education in India and beyond. He is a graduate of both EDIA Ahmedabad and JNV, and he co founded CIVOM, a company that designs learning spaces to help students become future leaders. He is also involved in other businesses and loves technology, philosophy, literature, fashion, and supporting his team. Welcome to this session, Yogi sir. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Now, on second, we have Ms. Sheetal Lakhani, school counselor and educational psychologist, Thakur School of Global Education. Ms. Sheetal brings over 12 years of experience in psychometric testing, child and adolescent counseling, research and development, need based learning, management, and behavioral sciences. Awarded as an outstanding psychologist and community interventionist by National EduTech Innovative Summit Awards 2023 and also awarded as a National Educationist Expert in 2020. She has been an outstanding psychologist of Maharashtra and has received the award for the same in 2019. And she also has a gold medalist in moral psychology in 2012, and she has also been recognized as an international psychologist in 2016. Welcome to this session, Sheetal ma'am. It's an absolute delight to have you among us.
Thank you.
And our third guest for this session is Dr. Trinjana Khattar, Program Director and Psychotherapist, Institute for Exceptional Children. Dr. Trinjana Khattar is the Program Director and Psychotherapist at the Institute for Exceptional Children (IEC), where she specializes in resolving anxiety, depression, and relationship distress among adults. She has previously worked as an assistant professor at School for Human Ecology, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, as well as she has also been a college counselor at the College of Social Work, Nirmala Niketan. She has also completed the postgraduate program in development management at SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, and she also serves as a member of Board of Studies, Department of Human Development, SNDT University. Welcome to this session, Dr. Trinjana.
Thank you so much.
Great. Now let's get going with the first theme of today's session, where we'll ask a question to each panelist. And the first theme is recognizing and addressing mental health challenges. On first, we have a question for Ms. Sheetal Lakhani. Ma'am, please discuss common mental health issues faced by students and how educators can identify and support them. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Akshay. Namaskaram to everyone. With my 12 years of experience in the field of school and educational psychology, I believe there is lack of acceptance, be it at home level or be it at school level. So it is very important for us to accept who the child is. A lot of children come to us when they are mostly in their ninth grade, eighth grade, and parents come to us saying that a child is not performing well academically, the child is not doing well, but that is not the grade to identify. The right early intervention begins when the schooling starts in the early years of nursery, which is called preschooling. So early intervention, early detection, early identification is so important, be it academics, be it learning. And it is very important for us to know that as you get a fever and you go to the doctor and visit the doctor and get yourself treated and you're fine in 3 to 4 days. Similarly, when you have a gap in learning, there are various methods to teach you how to cover that gap if it is done in the early years. So one does not have to make it a big issue or a big matter of concern. When there is a gap in learning, certain methods are taught to them when the gap can be filled over a period of 3 to 4 years. if it is in preschooling, right? But the same when the gap is identified when the child is in grade 10th, just because you want a concession and just because you know that you want the child to pass grade 10th, it becomes too late. So early detection and identification is very important. Those are the problems that we face when it comes to the academics. Then we have issues related to emotional mental health. We have a lot of students who face anxiety very easily. For them, performance, they all of them want to perform at their best. And where is it coming from? It is coming from the society, coming from their peers. So they have this FOMO, fear of missing out. I do not want to miss out that test. I do not want to miss out that school. I do not want to miss out that party. I do not want to miss out this social gathering. And with relation to FOMO, social media has become a huge platform for them. Then comes Instagram, then comes the Facebook, then comes other platforms wherein one like or one comment can really push them to a question mark of their own self-worth. So issues like self-esteem, self-worth, depression comes way too late. But lack of acceptance, anxiety is a major concern. Performance anxiety is a concern at school level for them. Then a lot of family dynamics. Families play a major role, wherein we see that parents, when it comes to their emotional issues, they forget the part that the role of a parent is different than the role of a husband and a wife. So what happens between a husband and a wife should stay between the husband and the wife, but that does not happen at the home setting. So the child brings those emotions back to school, and we have seen that there is selective mutism. For months altogether, a child who's very happy suddenly becomes quiet, suddenly stops talking, suddenly does not want to play. And then when we intervene and when we check, we understand that there are family dynamics that are not matching as per the role that a parent and a mother and a father should play. So we face family internal crisis that the child undergoes. Then a lot of parents shift. Shifting a house is a major concern for a child at a school level. So when, as you said, that the place where you study, where you work, where you sit, what you do, how you do is important, but where the place, the infrastructure is so important. Imagine, after 6 years you change the house again, after 6 years you change the house again, after 6 years you change the house, what it does to the mental health of the child. So continuous shifting, whether be it their workplace, be it their schooling, be it their house, it creates a major gap in learning, and that in turn affects the child. Because for a child, friendship gets affected, learning gets affected, schooling gets affected. Plus a new environment creates a major gap into their mental health again. And yes, there are peer pressure, societal concerns that matters to the child. So academics, emotional ups and downs, anxiety, a lot of personal stress when it comes to their food is a major concern for children these days in school. So we have cases where the child wants to eat only half a chapati, or will not want to get tiffin to the school. Why? Because it's a matter of me becoming, even if I have little more, I will become fat, and I don't want to become fat because people will look at me and they will laugh. So social image, being image conscious, is very important for children these days. So these are the issues we've been facing when it comes to school level. But yes, it is important for the educator. See, with what happens with us is, we intervene when there is a crisis or a problem. For an educator, the teacher makes or breaks the life of a child. Teacher is everything. Let us go back to our childhood, to my childhood, to Trinjana's childhood, to Yogi sir's childhood, and Akshay, your and the audience's childhood. We always remember the best of teachers we've had. And however successful we become, we always have their image in front of us. And we always bow down to them. Imagine how much of impact a teacher plays, an educator plays in the life of a child. One pat on the back can do wonders, and we are not required. So when the teacher understands the basics of mental health and counseling, she can do wonders in the class. 90% of cases, I believe, can be solved at a school level when a teacher understands mental health clearly, the developmental stages, the exceptional children, the love for acceptance, the love to give them the conducive space and environment for them. A small change in the infrastructure, that can make a huge difference. And a teacher having a morning 5 minute circle time with the child can make the entire child's day in the school. So yes, thorough involvement and intensity in learning can make huge change.
Very, very beautifully answered, Sheetal ma'am.
Thank you.
So yes, the points covered by Sheetal ma'am were early intervention and identification of the gaps in learning, then identifying issues of anxiety and its impact on children's academic performance that comes because of FOMO and social media, then also the social image and image consciousness that is getting developed. And the most important part was the importance of role of parenting and family dynamics. And this brings me to the point of environment, educational environment. And the second question is coming up for Mr. Yogi Patidar. Yogi sir, please highlight the role of schools in creating a supportive and inclusive environment for students.
Uh, Thank you, Akshay. So, roles of schools are very, very imperative in terms of, because we have to understand, distinguish between that. Schools are not factories. That is not product development. That's a human development process. Fortunately, unfortunately, most of the education institutes look that as a commerce. Okay, they wanted to put all the rules of Frederick W. Taylor to all scientific management principles, that that's how management should be done. Rather, it's a very conducive process, very sensory driven process. It's very human process, because you're building human, and that's going to be the future generation of your nation. So the idea at the first premise of vision has to be established in right direction, because if school doesn't understand that process, it cannot fulfill what we really wanted to go there. Okay, so selection of people, selection of teachers, all of this is very, very, very important, because it's a community which makes or raise a kid. I am from a small town, basically from a village. There the whole village raises kids. Okay, so mothers just get them ready at 9-10 o'clock, and they go out. There are elders who's raising them. So all that value start coming out as a very conducive community. And similarly, we need to understand this has to be come to the schools also. So first idea of community, idea of vision has to be very, very true to the human development rather than anything else. So if we understand that, then comes our part of fragmenting it to routines, to cultures, to all other parts. What kind of culture we really want to promote. Do we want create our school as an agency for them? Okay, versus if you see schools are there is a parent body, there is a school body, there is a student body. All of these are distinguished. All of them has to come together for that central learner. Of course, in the government, another part which played by this is who decides what we should study. It's a government typically in countries that they choose what we should study. So that their intervention at the policy level is also important. So yes, school has very important role on a mental well-being, but it starts at a core idea of vision first and foremost. If they don't establish that, it may not go further, because you will get them. Teacher would come, deliver themselves, and hoping that things would go better. Okay, it is not the way we can go. So idea again. I've been in Navodaya Vidyalaya. Navodaya Vidyalaya is big, huge communities of at least 400, 500 kids. We stay there, we breathe in everything. It's about 7 years of your life is in that campus. Okay, so our teachers is mostly like Gurukul. So from extracurricular to everything, they identify you from very early age till the till you're graduating each year. They understand who you are as a human first. What would work with you, what would not work with you. So it cannot be that same color can be painted to everyone, and you can go away with that. So very, very important that term. Second, I feel school settings has to be done very strongly on a peer level. Okay, our classroom cannot be our community. Our community has to go beyond just the classroom, because peers play a different role and different level of I would say fear. Now when I see an adult as a kid, okay, I have a lot of layers to open up. My vulnerabilities cannot be shared, whereas a friend I can be very open. Okay, so how this peer group also been spreaded in the school, so that also has to be seen in terms that how do I see, because in my schools we have learned a lot from our seniors. Okay, and that's what we aspire always, that I wanted to be a sportsman like him, or a dancer like that. That's a lot of aspiration comes there, a lot of inspiration comes there, a lot of guidance comes from them, because they've been to that stage. they're in that time of now, where our teachers maybe, they are adult, of course, but the way we see, today, a victim of social media versus a teacher not having social media exposed like that, could not understand the same emotion in the depth. So a peer community, exposure is also important. So I feel, this is how we have to understand that, I feel that this times has come where we can look at Gurukul as a models to, imbibe in school as a community, where we can look at who is me as a person, and can we foster and explore or give them in a platform to grow through that. Okay, and it has to be bigger version of community just being into a small classrooms.
That's great. Wonderful elaboration by Yogi sir, and the points covered by him were schools are for human development and not just product development. And then we also need intervention of policy formulation for educational environments. And the third point was our community has to go beyond just classrooms. That brings me to the third question, and that is for Dr. Trinjana Khattar. Ma'am, please discuss the importance of open communication and seeking help for mental health challenges, drawing on your experience of working with young people.
Thanks, Akshay, for that question. It's such an pertinent one because this whole word open itself, I think, cuts across what both Sheetal ma'am and Yogi sir are sharing. That there is a whole community, and I'd invite the panel to also look at the image one, if we can put that up. We are locating ourselves as individuals, as children, within a system, and the system is what, say, if we say our friends, if we say our parents, if we say our teachers, I think both that has been located. And then when we're saying who do we have this open communication with, it is also the larger ecosystem of, say, within a school setting, it could be the school leaders. At the policy level, it is our government, state governments, the policies that are coming in. Lot of efforts are being made by our governments to really change and bring in the conversation of mental health. Today in curriculums, schools are mandated by the education department that let's have a happiness curriculum, let's have a happiness Saturday, and teachers are invited that how can they fuse in to day-to-day activities of the curriculum, just like ma'am shared about a circle time, having stories. What's the importance of open communication? I think it is highly crucial that we have them, because if you start with a very young child who is probably in the first 5 years of their education, they really don't get their voice recognized. How many parents actually give that kind of respect to a small child? They say, "Mujhe pata hai na, I know this. This is what you're supposed to do. This is not the way you're supposed to behave. You should sit in a particular way. You should talk in a certain way. Say sorry." Are we really role modeling those behaviors in our conversations with our children? It's always like a top down. So we at the Institute for Exceptional Children believe that there are a lot of voices of a child which go unheard. They're not recognized as young people. You're a child, you don't understand. That's how they are seen, right? When we look at what are the reasons, what are the pressures that the parents are going after, their non-availability. Every parent wants to do their best, but somehow in the changing times we see that they're coming home with pressures, with stressors, the need to want more, a better life. We are not stopping with what we have, including me, right? We want more, and as a result, I think overall, the pressure comes into the child. How do we have an inclusive environment despite the policies that are being putting in place? The peers are not educated. How do you really intervene if your friend is being bullied? Oh, I was standing there, I can tell my teacher, but there is more you can do beyond that. If you know your friend is doing using self harm, which is very prominent, how do you really open communication? I think the key challenges are that people don't want to be seen as weak. They think that, with time this will change. They think sometimes they don't know enough probably, and then they try their best, but because they are themselves tensed and anxious, I don't know how to handle this child in my classroom. I don't know how to handle this, my child at home, and what do I do? They may invariably try negating. They don't want to, but they end up doing that. It is disbelief. I think when I work with many young adults, they are saying that, my parent will come back and ask me, but tell me really, are you so dull? Do you really need that psychiatric medication? Whereas we know that with medication, your urges for suicide can change within 15 days. So the role of psychologists and educate mental health educators is really to train across all levels to start with this open communication, but without judgment. I think that's what I'd invite everybody here. everybody after pandemic especially has understood what fear anxiety is, so they do want to notice it, but they are struggling because they don't have full information. And it has to probably be, information has to be given in a way I can digest, I can understand. I don't need terminologies. My psychologist and doctor will give me terms of medication and things. It has to be broken down to explain to me in a way I can simply understand. What is the lack of focus the child has? What is the, when we say low esteem, self esteem, what are you doing in the home environment that's reinforcing that lack of confidence in the child by you telling them, do this, don't do that, listen to me, having that conflict within the family environment. So I think open communication has to be without negation, lots of validation, unconditional support. It's easier terms to set. It's very difficult to play this out. But really question your own, are you in denial, disbelief about what's happening with the child? And there are so many resources. We're in a very lucky stage of life where everything is available on YouTube, and it's important to really soak in that information with some wisdom of checking in with that child across their age group. So be it a young child, like I said, who doesn't, whose voice is not recognized, or an older child who is continuously negated. You know, you're not thinking right, you can push yourself harder, it is really not like this, you can do better. Two important things I feel, which are to note when it comes to mental health, and I close with that. One is that mental health is on a spectrum. It's not a black and white picture. So a person with depression may have a fruitful day as well. It's a spectrum, you know, from being irritable to actually having an outburst, and most of us don't understand how this spectrum plays out. The other is because it's invisible, I myself don't believe I'm suffering, because I feel, you know, but some days I'm okay, but I can't see a sign. And so that this really confuses the user, the patient, the person who's suffering, and the caregiver, which is why mental health as a question is very, very complex. And all of us are trying our best to bridge the treatment gap. But those are the basic, most important challenges that are coming our way.
Incredible, incredibly explained. I guess that was a 360-degree coverage of all the points that could be answered, very well answered. And ma'am, like you told about some policy interventions also. I remember Yogi sir, you have explained a very beautiful point at one of the session about like why libraries as a were just built by some Indian schools because that was a compulsion because of policy. Could you please elaborate on that?
So I was mentioning about when we did a first survey in India to start our work, we figured out most of the school libraries are built because they wanted to have a compliance to be done. We never thought of library as the idea of community. It is because I feel India doesn't have that productive spaces, in a social settings. You go to Australia, you go to Europe. Every city or every council itself has one or big two libraries, where someone who's housewife, she's in her postpartum periods, she can go get there and reconnect to the people, okay, communities, elders who can go there, kids who want to practice, learn something. You can have culinary classes to anything. It's like your community space with all the facilitation inside it. So India lacks a lot on that kind of intellectual community settings. We would have a community settings, but for garbas and for a lot of other system which is more religious oriented rather than having intellectual settings, is what I was mentioning that day. Yeah, actually.
Okay, so yes, that brings us to the close of the first theme, very well and beautifully explained by all the three panelists. And that brings us to the second theme of our session, that is focused on fostering mental well being and resilience. On first, we have a question for Dr. Trinjana, and it is connecting to your answers that please discuss strategies for fostering positive mental health and resilience in young people, emphasizing the importance of self care, mindfulness, and coping mechanisms.
Thank you, Akshay, for asking this question, because I believe that these key words of resilience, self care, mindfulness, while we talk a lot about it, do we really understand in terms of theory and practice? I understand what mindfulness is, which means my mind is not full of stuff, but my mind is actually like water, which is still and it's calm, so I can soak in what's happening in the present. That's really what mindfulness is about. But how do you really action it? And I think what really works for me, and I often will share this with my people I serve, is that just start with a pause. And what is a pause? It's a planned act using spiritual energy. So you're pausing, and in that pause, we have insight which we can develop. हम सब सक्षम है. We all are capable to be able to create this little bit of space between our two thoughts, saying, "What do I do here? I'm struggling." And that's really the foundation of resilience. There's a lot of research across the globe talking about resilience. Simple ways. A friend will use humor to cheer up the mood of another friend, by saying, your this is how it is, that's the teacher is like that, the parent is like that. So we use humor to create, just have fun out of tragic situations. We do that in our movies, right, in Bollywood. When it comes to arts, be it, sometimes we will say, okay, take up any color and just put it on paper. Whatever you're feeling, let the colors show what you're feeling. It doesn't have to have a form or structure. So that's like expressive arts, dance movement therapy. Expressive arts therapies will use creativity. Sometimes you just use clay, you use beeswax, give it a lot of warmth and mold it in a way to express your emotion. So that helps with emotional regularity. I think when we create that pause, we build insight. We also need to, I think, one of the quickest ways to really look at self-care, and I'm sure Instagram is full of what you can do for self-care, which looks at really creating the happy hormones and exercising. So I'm not going to talk about things our audience is already familiar with, but what about really locating yourself independent, distancing yourself from what is creating that unrest, and saying that, so you're externalizing the problem. You're saying this is the problem and I'm outside of it. And this is what therapists and psychologists do. How do you see that problem? How does it look? How heavy is it? That's what we do in therapy, to say, okay, I am not the problem. The problem is occurring outside of me. And really, when we use those thought processes, and our problem solving increases, because this is our brain, right? We'll have a shutdown. So we'll have a shutdown, our frontal lobe will stop working because we are so overwhelmed. But when we locate it outside of us, we're getting our cognitive capacities back to say, okay, now how do I move towards solving it? So resilience can be built by pausing, by locating our breath, and then activating what we can do about it. Of course, there is very little that is still understood about nutrition and gut being our second brain. I think what I definitely would encourage the young people who are using Chinese bhel and junk food and sugary food stuff and salty food stuff, that really you cannot regulate anymore if you don't work on your diet. Exercise and the nutrition we are getting through whole foods plant-based diet is one of the major important aspects that needs to be looked at. Nothing packaged or processed, what is grown by sun, is adequate to really look at nutrition. So I think I'm going to close a lot of elements, but really focusing on self-care through pausing and having the right diet and accessing the inner insight, and using help when you think you can't do it on your own.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. And the point of emphasizing on the nutrition and its impact on the cognitive development, that was wonderfully elaborated by ma'am. And that brings me to the second question of our for Teacher Lakhani ma'am. And the question for you is, please share practical tips and techniques for educators to implement in their classrooms related to mental well-being and resilience.
Sure. Thank you so much, Akshay, for this question. See, the first and foremost important point for us to note is that along with educators and students, it's important for parents to have mental health awareness. So, with along with teachers, we also want parents to be involved in the system. Now, when we say system, what is system? System is save yourself from time, energy, and money. So it's very important for us to build a system where the parent also walks in as a student and understands the basics of child psychology. See, we might do a lot of changes at the school level. We might teach them life skills. We might train the teachers. But if the parents back home are not well trained and understand what the child is undergoing, there is a huge gap in our process. And whatever we do at the school level nullifies the effect when the child goes back home. So we have a lot of parents still believe the fact that fear is the medium where we want control over the child. So कई बार ऐसे होता है, the parent says, अरे मैं मेरे बच्चे को डर ही नहीं है मेरा, So we laugh at them and we say अच्छी बात है. If नहीं है डर, that's a beautiful thing, because fear is not the medium of growth. Your medium of growth should be where the child openly comes and communicates and says that I'm not okay with this, father, or I've done something wrong, mom, tell me what next to do. So the first step, I believe, should be that there should be some parenting, parenting awareness programs at basic level that schools should incorporate and utilize in the learning. The second one is that along with students, we also want teachers to have a very positive mental health environment at workplace. Because teachers are also humans, and if a happy teacher brings in a happy child, I always believe that if my teacher is happy, my teacher is definitely going to have a beautiful classroom and a child in the class and in the future. So a happy teacher is a happy child. And third and the most important part is that just start the practice of acceptance. Stop labeling. Labeling is something that none of us should be okay with. A lot of people come to us again and tell us that I am under depression. The first thing we have to tell them is, I'm sure Dr. Trinjana will also agree, that where is the diagnosis, beta? Can you show us the prescription? Can you show us who has diagnosed you? No, no, ma'am. I think it's anxiety. Or the parent will say, oh, you know what? I'm going through a lot of problems at my home level, and I am under depression. Or they would use clinical terms. I feel this person is schizophrenic, or this person is dealing with me in so and so way, and this has XYZ OCD problems. So we have to stop labeling. You must have heard these terms on Instagram. You must have heard these terms on internet, but this is not who you are, right? Very beautifully explained by doctor again, that the what is the spectrum is what we need to identify, the level and the spectrum, and the understanding that psychiatric medications are not filled with uh, wrong terms, wrong chemicals and side effects. आज आप एक when you have one glass of thumbs up, why don't you understand so much of sugar intake also has those side effects? One packet of chips also has side effects. One, we have parents who give Lay's chips packets, to kids for breakfast, just because they were busy and they could not wake up on time. So when you're okay with that, then why are you not okay with visiting a psychologist or a mental health expert and get your child treated for it, or for that fact yourself? So it's very important for us to stop labeling. Accept the child. Practice life skills exercises at school level. Make mental health a part of your curriculum. Not wait for the problem or the mental health day to arrive to talk about it. This should be your walking, talking, living. It should be your breath, because you're dealing with it every day. So, simple techniques should be identified. Mental health should be a part of the curriculum. And yes, I would like to close with this fact that let's stop labeling. Let's stop labeling, and take mental health, the positive aspects of it more. And rather than getting scared, accept it and start loving it. Because mental health is all about you.
Okay, so that also reminded me of two things. One, you must have seen a famous food influencer having his word like label padega India, so that
Yeah.
reminded me of that. And
Right.
also of my own childhood, like we would all share, like we would get, as you said, a packet of Lays or whichever brand it was, because we used to get gifts in that, and we used
Right.
to convince our parents to get us that, like almost
Right.
every week. So
Right.
those are the things that got reminded, and the beautiful point shared by you were the full form of system: save yourself from time, energy, and money.
And money.
And then fear is not the medium of growth. Parenting awareness programs are need of the hour. Then positive mental health environment for teachers must be on the emphasis, because a happy teacher brings up a happy child. And yes, we must stop labeling and accept the child and make mental health a part of our curriculum. And that brings to a question about educational environments. So, Yogi sir, the final question coming up on you. Please share initiatives implemented by CIVOM in their spaces or products which support mental health in educational settings. So, all yours.
Great. I, Abhilash, if you can upload the presentation. Um, So, by the time he does it, so what, Tisha mentioned about, you know, so Sheetal mentioned about, fear as a factor of control. We had also in physical environments has made things which is, like a fact for us. Sitting on a hard chair or a hard bench is equivalent to control, because you would not sleep. We don't talk about physiology as a factor, rather than it can create a blood pressure, disbalance, versus, we want them to be on hard benches, that he would be very straight, organized, focused, controlled. So we wanted to label those as a products, in this way. So, there's a lot of myths which we had seen in our past system. I a lot of time talk about, look at the classroom environment design which we have in our school design, that's similarized to jails. you know they You have a corridor, you have cells both the sides, you have a bell which rings out, like prisoners go inside, you get a time, you go away, go in. Everything is controlled by those systems. So our whole design of corridor is principally taken from a control system. Okay, that we wanted everything. The teacher would come only for 45 minutes, she had to deliver whatever she's coming around. So even if you ask teachers ki madam ma'am aaj kya chal raha hai yaar, if you ask any other subject teachers, says कि I'm on this chapter, we are finishing this chapter. They're more like believed in the efficiency as a system. They never talked about effectivity as a system. So when we create environment, if you see, this is one of environment done for a school in Bangalore. There's a lot of soft sittings. Idea is to give them sense of comfort, coziness, that this place belongs to me. There is no layers around it. There is no distinction between things. That like we were saying, not labeling it out. So you cannot label that I am at this age group, I cannot learn more than this, or my understanding is lower than this. So idea is, how do you let them explore everything? So when we create environment, this is few things which we try to see. Again, if you see this one, so idea is, can space also, I was mentioning that, can it become an agent of choices? Can it become flexibility? If I want to sit on the floor, who is stopping me? If I want to stand and learn, who is forcing me to sit on a chair? Why is it so? Because visualization is a very different impact to whole cognitive. We call it, if you recent report came in February 23, I believe, on it talks about SCAN, somatics cognitive analysis network. So how somatics and cognitive works together. So how physiology has an impact to your cognitive systems, your hormonal release. So it's the choices which we need to have. If you are being asked on a chair at a workplace and sitting there for 8 hours, I'm telling you, your health is going to get affected very strongly. India has, the genes in India is typically our bellies get fat, our hands or wrist doesn't get fat. When you say Americans, their wrist would be fatter also. Okay, so idea is the way we sit every day, that the bulge in the physical system works around that. So all physical environment has to give us choices, that if I want to lay down and read, idea is to from a psychological point of view, or self-awareness point of view, you should be present in the situation. If you are there in the process of learning, you can sit, you can lay, you can take rest, but you're still in the focus of that. So how does your body is connecting to that? So we try to bring a lot of those things. So when you see products, it has to be so flexible that you can lift anywhere in the choices that you have. Okay, go further. So another key thing which we do is giving them cave spaces, reflective areas. Okay, where if they want to zone out, in the whole community they can go and sit and zone out. They want to be with someone, they can choose and be there. Okay, so idea is having that sense of that, I can zone out, if there's so much important going in, and as an adult or as a earlier schooling traditional methods, you're supposed to be in this. We had to be there, be whatever it is. So like one of the panelists mentioning about that we can feel that we should take a pause, we can break it out, we can it's good to have it. So can we create environments where we can feel that I can break out, I'm still part of it, but I can still break it out. So having that sense of belonging, but still pausing in. So creating a lot of reflective spaces, cave spaces is an idea when we create environments. And we do it in for adults also. Abhilash, if you can shift further. So I'm just showing, what has been done. So this is, typically at adult level, this is at IIM Jammu. Uh, because generally, as an adult, we go, our color senses start dimming down neurologically. Okay, we wanted to set with the more mute colors. So we wanted to bring them some freshness because, whole of their campus is more mute, blended. So idea is when they come into a library or a physical space like that, there should be an excitement. There should be some change. And today we are dealing with the Gen Zs being into the colleges. That's at Kai early years. So if you see, you have choices, you have connections. All of that is there. This is Kai has been designed in such a way that we visited Kai. Sad was mentioning that kids at lower than 5 years age, they can figure out on which area to walk and which area is learning area. This is an open environment. There is trails going on, and which is known by kids. Another strong thing which they have done for creating safe spaces in early ages. Uh, Whenever they take admission, they ask for the favorite character, and that favorite character with their name goes on a cupboard, and which is their own cupboard. Okay, and that simple symbol helps them connecting to this space. This is my space. And later in the age, they remove the image and just keep the name, and they still could not read or write, but they can recognize by the symbol that this is my name. So those are areas where you can create safe spaces, because when at early years there is a system called settler's room, because one kid comes out age of 2 or 3, when he or she start crying, all other classmates start crying. Okay, so they create a settler system. So this is how they connected it to safe ideas. These are few spaces again which Indian library doesn't used to have earlier, that that has to be very silent, calm spaces, straight tables, storages. At IIM Ahmedabad, we try to bring out a lot of learning areas in the campus. A lot of when we were researching, we figured out what all they do in the campus and can it be brought down into the libraries. Can we make it more exciting, the place to be? I wanted to be that place. Okay, so it has been, so silent area has been zoned out separately. There's one particular area which is silent, but rather is all open. Where I, as a today's user, who wanted to today's cafe or any other settings you see, they're very dynamic. So this is group of settings where they wanted to connect it with digital systems of their institute, can connect around. Okay, so idea is, it all has to come down from an idea of how we can help physical environment connected to their cognitive and psychic environments. So this is again at Legacy, where teachers are given equivalence. With student and teachers are at the same place. There's no distinction between this. So this is all open environments where you see settings like that, where you feel that your adults and you give kids as a respect as an adults. Similarly, on I think we have one more. So similar environments, which is giving them the success and choices. And yeah, Abhilash, is there one more which says? I show you some. So if you look at the poster beyond there, it says "make mistakes." Can we have this loud and clear voices for kids that it is okay to make mistakes, learn from them? Typically we wanted in traditional system that we wanted them to do perfect in the first go. That sign of saying that you are, you have to be good at it. Okay, and that's where rejection as an idea start coming around, that comparison start coming around. So allowing them to make mistakes, having them choice that no, it is my choice, I would go with this. It's okay to fail, because by failing I would it doesn't mean that I cannot do it, maybe I need to do it other way, is what we need to really think around. So all this visual when you see the walls, how you visually can set them, like whatever messaging you want to do, and how clearly you want those messages, which is again connected to the practices we are doing. So we believe all this is factoring to the environment where we want that cognitive and psychological growths to come down to them. So yeah, this is what we are doing right now.
Beautiful, beautiful visuals shown by Yogi sir about CIVOM's work across entire India. And yes, I also came across a point that was connected to the explanations given by all three of you. Sir told about the favorite characters being put on the cupboards and almiras, and then Sheetal ma'am and Trinjana ma'am also told about getting motivated for having leafy green vegetables. So I remember that the only motivation for me as a child to go for eating spinach almost every week was because of the cartoon character Popoy, who
Right.
used to get a spinach can whenever he was in difficulty and his muscles would inflate. So that was the story and the motivation behind all these things. And that brings us to the close of the second theme. And now we have a final wrap up, quick wrap up minute for dedicated to all the guest panelists, where we'll be giving you a quick minute to share your final thoughts on today's session. And on first, let's have Sheetal ma'am.
Sure. Thank you so much, Yogi ji. You've really beautifully explained us the infrastructure. So thank you for that. And I would request all the viewers that stop labeling. Let's start accepting. Let's start being who we are, the real self. Self awareness is very important. The moment you know who you are and what you want, you will create miracles in your life. And let us also believe the fact that if you can dream it, you can have it. With this thought, let us understand the notion that we need to eat right, we need to sleep at the right time. Sleep is very important for our health. And at the same time, we need to talk right. Talking right is very important, be it with others or with yourself. The moment you start believing, you start talking right, things will start changing for you. And at the same time, if you believe that you're not doing well, please visit us. We'll make it as better as we can for you. Let us leave people better than we found them, with love, acceptance, with creation, that mental health is all about you. And let us not label it in the negative term. Mental health has a lot of positive aspects to it, and it can create wonders with you. Do not be fearful of the fact that psychiatry is going to lead to side effects. There are no such notions where it is going to do harm to you. It is for your betterment, for your growth, for a better life to you. So if you've gone through something that is making it difficult for you, please accept it, take it, and visit the doctor and get yourself treated. You will be better soon. So we are here for your support. The entire community is here for your support, and we want you to be more open, to be more loving towards yourself, and do not take your life for granted.
Applause, applause for that
Thank
answer
you.
from Sheetal ma'am.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Ma'am, the final thoughts for a quick wrap up minute coming over to you. Trinjana ma'am, over to you.
I'm going to take it forward from what ma'am shared. The story is about a student who never saw a counselor, but who met the counselor was the student's friend and the student's college principal. We still in the country do not, we only do an eye wash when we place a counselor, and as a compliance issue we place a counselor for 4,000 kids and young adults in a college, but we really don't address the challenges. So what I want to leave you with is how a friend who accompanied the person who was suffering identified, and under the guidance of the college counselor supported the friend out of a suicide attempt, took them to the college principal, and the college principal and the teachers, and I'm telling you again, the counselor did not intervene with the student, but the college teachers and principal got together and said, let us involve this child in academic activities, give them the motivation, take care of them. If their home environment is not safe, let them be in college, give them internships, vocational training, something which is mandated now under NEP, involve them. And today, after 7 years, the student who is now a working professional has beautifully blossomed, finished their education, joined two jobs, scaled up, and comes back to the retired college principal to touch their feet and said, you saved me. There's a lot that systems can do, and we can only do it together. So each of us have a role to play. You can come where you need support from the mental health fraternity, but there are very few of us. So there's a lot each of us have to do in our current systems to use both time and effort, beautifully, to save lives and also make people bloom, right? Serve them well. So thank you so much for joining this conversation and showing that you can also be a champion.
Ma'am, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And that point also makes me think that probably that's the reason why Kaun Banega Crorepati had an option called as phone a friend, right? So that brings me to Mr. Yogi Patidar to please share your final thoughts. In
No, from what I experienced from my life, being from a rural roots to whatever I've been today, um, education has played a great role in my life. My parents, my community, because there's a different rawness. What we see from rural backgrounds. They're very strong emotions. May not be very strong materialistical systems, but their emotions are very strong. When they support, they stand for you. So what I learned out of all this works of around for 15, 16 years in my life, idea of competition is not good. Idea of self competition is better. You know, uh, what you want to see yourself next year is what you should see, rather than what someone else is doing. The moment we start putting that comparison, whole self growth starts diminishing down, because where he started, how he started, what they are doing is very different in conditions. You had to set your own bar, okay, that I am today here and this is where we want to go in future. It is what you wanted to have. It's very self thinking. So I always say, पहले हॉबी ढूंढो, है ना. अगर हॉबी मिल जाए तो उसमें पैशन ढूंढो, पैशन मिल जाए तो पर्पस ढूंढो, और पर्पस मिल जाए तो मीनिंग ढूंढो. तो पाब्लो पिकासो बोलते हैं the purpose of as a meaning of life is to find gift within, and the purpose of life is to give it away. So I feel अगर मुझे connection मिल गया what I am as a person, if we go into introspection and I feel this is what I love, and it can be a mix of anything. It can be a mix of photography, maths, or something else. Today's times can create a niche for you. It's going to be must beautiful combination of things. I always say कि एक कैमरा डिजाइनर होगा जो एप्पल का कैमरा डिजाइन करता होगा, उसका स्किल सेट क्या होगा. Think about it. So he will have a very different kind of niche. So whatever you love, don't label it, don't put it in this. Whatever it is, maybe from a relationships to anything, just combine them. You will have your own unique set coming to you, and you will succeed for guaranteedly. Just look at yourself as a competition rather than anyone else. Life is much much beautiful there. So मेरे गुरुदेव बोलते कई बार कि ज़्यादा सोचने का नहीं है, ठीक है. तो अगर कभी विचार आए भी तो बोलना इट शुड बी चिंतन rather than चिंता. So if I'm thinking, I only think positive rather than I don't think. तो अगर विचार आए तो अगर पॉजिटिव डायरेक्शन में जा सकते हैं, it will always make you feel better because it's going to inspire you rather than making feel you negative about it. So चिंतन करें, चिंता ना करें. Rest everything would be great, I feel.
Uh, okay, so that was a very wise answer, and that reminds me of a scene from Three Idiots where Yogi sir, being acting like a rancho, says that "बच्चा excellence के पीछे भागो, success तुम्हारे पीछे जग मार के आएगी." So that brings us to the close of this session, and that was really a very joyous and a wonderful session we ever had for our LinkedIn Live, and that was on mental health for educational settings. And before I propose a vote of thanks, I thank all of the audience joining us live from different parts of the world. And now I propose the vote of thanks to our guest panelists, Ms. Sheetal Lakhani, Dr. Trinjana Khattar, and Mr. Yogendra Patidar for joining us today and for giving us your time to share all of the experiences and wisdom that you have accumulated for all these years. Definitely, your points are worth considering and they will help in improving the lives and educational settings across all of the India. And that calls us for the close of the session. And for everyone joining us live, please keep following CIVOM on all the social media and digital media platforms. You'll have many resources and information dedicated to the educational settings. And if you have any questions, please tag our guest panelists in the comment section and they would be happy to help you. Thank you so much for joining us live.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.